My name is Dariel Garcia. I am originally from Dominican Republic, born and raised. Came to the States in 2012, so I've been here for about 12 years now, 13, shit. Can I curse?
Yes.
Okay. Um, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling tired, but the weather is kind of doing a number on me, bringing that new summer energy around the corner. So I'm happy about that after the snows we've had. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty okay.
And how do you feel today as a man?
As a man, well, good question. I guess my philosophical side wants to ask, well, what does it mean to be a man? In which case, I'll answer that I will feel like any other man, providing they've had the same experiences that I've had. But I think that, I think that I'm feeling pretty good, and that's about the extent of it. I know that there's a lot of things around the corner that a lot of men don't want to acknowledge.
Okay, so we're gonna get into your childhood.
Sure.
So let's talk about, your environment, the household, school, and how did it affect you mentally every day?
Dominican Republic or here?
Both.
Both.
Let's get into both.
Okay.
With DR, since you were born there, right?
Yeah, I was born there, and I had my grandmother. So we had like this big house, and the house was built like a horseshoe almost. And on one side was this bakery. My grandmother had a bakery, and on the other side was the house. So it had like 5 rooms, and every room had its own bathroom. So it was like its own little ecosystem. So it was me, my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather, and then like aunts and people that just worked at the bakery that would sometimes come from like the countryside to work there. And that, I would say, me and my grandfather got along very well. And that, I would say, was like the peak of my childhood, was having, like I would do homework and just stare at the bakery and stare at the ovens. Or I would be at the bakery and like looking up inside, and my grandfather would like be burning cassettes or whatever, or recording over cassette tapes. So I remember that. I remember this weird like duality of the house and how I interacted with it. I would ride my bike, so I would bring my bike through the bakery to go outside. And I would come in through the other door to drink water and then go back out. But it was fun. Then my family came here, and they came here all at once. And that was a shock, because it's kind of like I said, I had the peak and I had everything, and then all of a sudden 11 people just like packed up and left. And then I went to live with my dad. My mom and my dad were separated when I was 1. But they got along so well that I didn't realize it. In my head, it was just kind of like, well, Dad doesn't live here because his job is too far. But like Dad would come over and have dinner with us, and he would take me out on weekends, and he pretty much made sure that I didn't realize that anything was wrong. And so when I went to live with my dad, that was also interesting, because then it was a smaller house, and it was a bit of a sketchier neighborhood, so I wasn't allowed outside as much, and change your school, change your friends, things like that. Like that made it a thing.
Were you like a teenager when you came here?
I was 13. By the time I came here, I was 13, so we're talking like early years. And then, which I would consider, like, my family left when I was like 8. So from 8 to 13, I would consider that are like the most important years in my development, because I feel like that's when you start getting a sense of rhythm and life, and you start noticing what you like, what you don't like, or like what to say no to. You start having a voice of your own. Like before that, you're just kind of following people around, but that's when you like realize things. And I've been like ahead of my years in many ways. So I feel like really when I was like 8 through 13, I was really living like 13 to 16, and that helped a lot to just kind of adapt to that environment so quickly. But I had a good time nonetheless. I was never a bad kid for that matter. The joke always was, my grandmother, who also lived in this house with my dad, she used to say that I was the type of kid that could spend the whole day with just a toy car. And so like that was that. I'm like, yeah, you were the best kid to like have around, because you would just sit there and play and not bother anybody. and I would eat anything. And yeah, I always got along with people. I was always very social. I remember that, and so my dad always had this thing wherever we would go to people's houses, he would always be like, like to show people how easygoing I was. He would be like, hey, listen, I have to go to work. I'll come back for you tomorrow. And I would just be like, okay, random house, don't know these people, don't know anybody. The only thing I cared about was that they had breakfast in the morning and like a place for me to sleep, and that was that. And people were always surprised at that I wasn't like attached. I was just like, okay, I'll see you. And that was fun. Then coming here was rough. Especially because
Did you know English? Yeah.
I spoke a little bit because I had taken it in school, and there's I had family that lived here as well that would like come to visit and stuff. And there's I don't know if it happens the same on your side of the island, but this whole idea of like, do you travel? Like, does your family travel? In the Dominican Republic, that's a big thing. It's like, it's almost a social status thing. It's like if your family travels, which basically means like, does your family travel outside to the U.S., then you're kind of put in this medium high class bracket immediately. So I always had family members that traveled back and forth, and that was always a thing. So I always like kind of knew a little English. I always kind of knew of the U.S. and like there was pictures and stuff. And at the time I was growing up, things like MSN and High Five and shit like that was like popping off. So people were like posting pictures on Facebook, and I got to see. So like I always had a vision of the U.S. and what it was like. And then I came here, and then here was rough because my mom had remarried and had just had my little brother. I was an only child for the first 13 years of my life. And then I come here, new country, new language, new house, new people, and a little brother. And of course, my mom is not the same because she's been here for however long. I think at that point it was almost like 6, 7. Yeah, I would argue. I wouldn't argue. It was overwhelming.
So how did that affect your mental health? Especially because you were a teenager, so
Yeah, I don't know. I think I was more excited about coming to the U.S. and doing U.S. things, and like the stuff you see in like High School Musical, and like I was gonna go and just hang out at the mall and Mean Girl style. I was gonna have a car at 17 and stuff like that, of course, and that is the vision that's outside of New York. But ironically, when I first came, I came to Jersey, and Jersey was also scary. And the one big shocker for me, as opposed to the Dominican Republic, even though I had adjusted to not going out as much, here that's not a thing. That's like, like friends don't really hang out like that. Like in the Dominican Republic, it was always like, let me go over to your house and like play PlayStation for an afternoon or whatever. And here that doesn't really happen unless you like really know the person or you've been friends for years. Of course, it depends on the household, but my household situation was a little bit more enclosed for that. So that was like my big thing. It was really, and like the cold. My parents hated the cold. They hated to go outside. My mom mostly. So it was always this weird like, I can't go out, and that pisses me off because in the Dominican Republic and in many islands of the Caribbean, going out is like a normal thing. You just go out to get some air. You go out to run errands. You go out just to go out. And here that was like not the case. Here the vision was more like you go out if you have to. Other than that, you're kind of at home, and that was always strange to me.
So were you able to talk to somebody about like how you were feeling moving from DR to here?
Not at the time. And of course, at the time, I didn't realize that. At the time, it was just like, I hate it here. My dad, who's my biological dad, who still lives in the Dominican Republic, he was a prominent figure in just, I don't want to say keeping me straight, but my dad always had a way to talk to me, and he was never sugarcoating anything, and was never this person of like.
Oh, you said you never sugarcoated.
No, he never
He was
shoot.
very direct.
He was very direct, and he was never, and not necessarily in a bad way, but my dad was the type of person that, if you ask him, like, as a curious child, I was like, hey, what makes a car go? He was never gonna sit there and be like, well, it's magic under the hood. No, my dad would like sit me there and be like, well, let's think about it, and let's look at all the bits and bobs that make it happen, and compare it to things that I might know. So my dad was very good at just giving me realistic answers. That's like what I'm saying. And so he never felt the need to like, put in this big story so that I don't grow up so fast. He knew what kind of kid I was. So so my dad was one of the persons that I kind of went to, and he suggested I stayed and that I get used to it, and that things are weird, but he did always give me the option that if things are not working out, if I really hate it, I can always go back. But he wanted me to give it a fair chance, and that's what I did. And now I don't know if I can see myself living anywhere else. So thanks, Pops.
So because your father was active in your life, and you said your grandfather back in
Yeah.
Did you notice any like repetitive patterns that your father did that got passed down to you? Especially because you were with your grandfather too. That's your dad's dad or your mom's?
My mom's dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've been, Jesus, this is so wrong, but I've been lucky. So I've always like just talked to older people. I've always had a thing for just like talking to the elderly. So I've been lucky to have many good and prominent male figures in my life, and I've been lucky enough to like pick a bit from every one of them. So my grandfather, loved that man. He passed away recently, not so recently, but I would say like maybe right before pandemic. And that was like the man that I was closest to, and I carry his last name. My middle name is his name. So I feel some sort of like legacy there, and he was he was just the funniest guy to be around, and would never care. Proud, a bit too proud. But yeah, I love that man, and of course, like I moved here and I couldn't reach out as much, and you're like a rebellious teenager, and you're like, no, I want to go play skateboard. Why do I want to sit there and talk to granddad for an hour? And he always had this vision of like, that I would come back, and my granddad was a musician, and he was like an experimental man, which is maybe where I get some of my thing too. But my granddad was like, write music, or like learn an instrument, or learn to make perfumes, or like sell secondhand clothes. He had a mechanic shop at some point. So you like never knew. He took over the bakery after everyone left. So this man had definitely a lot of knowledge under his hat, and he was very social. And that's really, I would say, like the main thing that I picked up from him is being funny and social and just part of the conversation, and just like enjoying a good moment. From my dad, I would say my dad is very analytical. So I got my analytical mind from him. I was like super zoned in and analyzing everything. Like, what does it take to get from point A to point B, and kind of thinking things through. My dad is also a bit more reserved. So I, like never wore pants down to my knees. Never like,
He was strict.
Yeah, he was more strict, but it also gave me the vision that like I never. Also, he was good with money. Like he was a businessman. He studied business management. And he went to school after I was born, so I kind of like helped him study, which was really interesting. Yeah, it was really interesting to like sit there and go through like a business. Yeah, we would sit there and like go through business books, at like midnight, and I would like help him study for tests and stuff. And my dad, so he was good at just like making it known that there are things you spend money on, there are things that you shouldn't just because you don't need them. So yeah, this analytical mindset definitely comes from him. And one of the story he tells me, I recently flew back to the Dominican Republic, and now as an adult it's a little bit different and we can talk things a little more. But he was he was telling me the story that I don't remember, but we went to a toy shop one time, and apparently in this toy shop, he was like, or this toy store, and he was like, okay, listen, we're getting a gift for somebody. I have no money, so don't ask me for anything, don't cry for anything, don't make a show, because if you make a show, we're leaving. So we went through like this toy store, looked for things, and I was very quiet and well behaved, and we got back in the car, and he was like, so, did you see anything you like? I was like, well, I like this little red car, but I didn't say anything because you said we had no money. So he went and bought the car the next day. So that was like that. That's the type of man my dad was. It was never to do something. There was always a lesson behind it, and that I appreciate from him. He always made it, every moment seem like a lesson.
So would you feel comfortable talking to your dad about yourself? And even your grandfather, if he was still here?
Yeah, my grandfather most. There are a lot of things I want to ask him, and there are a lot of things that I think he will get better than my dad. Like I said, my dad is a little more strict, so my dad is a little bit more difficult to talk to about certain topics. And then there are things that are not his fault. It's mainly just a cultural difference. He doesn't live here. He doesn't get it. Do you still have family in Haiti that you try to talk to, and like it's hard to make them like understand?
I have an uncle and his kids that are still there, so I haven't met him.
Okay, yeah, but it's kind of like that where you try to talk to somebody and anybody outside of the States, and like you try to explain to them that the F train was late and like that messed up your whole day, and they just don't understand. They just don't get it. Why don't you leave earlier? And you're like, well, because I got home at midnight. So this battle of like not understanding what really goes on here, because of course the story overstates is like money grows on trees, but that's clearly not the case once you're here.
So overall, would you see yourself as a dad? Why or why not? Because there's also a mindset of being a father.
God, it depends. I don't know. Like I said, because of my grandfather, part of me feels I should continue some of that legacy. Okay. And part of me feels like that, the Isaiah's name needs to move on. Part of me is scared due to the way of the world and the way that everything is. And, of course, like, I know that there's no book for it, but I definitely don't feel prepared. I wouldn't say like I wouldn't love a child. I wouldn't love to have an offspring of my own, or even adopt, or even like teach somebody, or whatever the situation might be. But I definitely think about those things whenever that pops up. It's always like, well, what is going on in the world right now? What am I really giving to this child? And will this child be happy? Because ultimately he didn't have a choice, right? So really the choice is mine to make sure that he goes off into the world and do well. And I don't think I'm ready for that yet. I don't think.
That's fair. You want to be intentional about it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that like there's something about that. There's something like there's more responsibility to it, and I, for lack of a better term, can barely wipe my own ass. So to have someone else to take care of. My cousin just had a kid, he's younger than me, and that's really scary. But he's happy about it, and it's like, for some people it works. Like that really set him straight. For me, yeah, I feel like I really need to want to have it. And as of right now, I don't think I want to.
All right, we're gonna get into, adulthood and challenges. So entering adulthood, what are some habits that you've done that hurt people without realizing it? Like as a, trauma reflex.
As a trauma reflex, ooh, that's a big one. I don't know. Recently, I've come to learn a couple of things. Definitely, like shirting people out has been my go-to. I'm very good at just like going cold turkey and not communicating to anybody.
Silent treatment?
Yeah, silent treatment kind of, for no rhyme or reason. I'm very talkative. Like I like to communicate things. I like to communicate with people, about what's going on or what's been bothering me. But sometimes I hide a lot, and because I hide and prefer not to talk about it, then that never gets fixed. And so because of that, I end up returning to my little shell. Recently, more and more people have been more comfortable talking, though. I would say, yeah, the silent treatment. I'm sure there's a ton of things that I do. I'm also very like people pleasing, so there may be the world of like the yes man, where I just answer yes to everything, even though I don't agree or I don't voice my opinion as much as some people would like. So I feel like there are definitely things. What they are, I wouldn't be able to answer, but I know silent treatment is one of them that I'm conscious of, at least.
Okay, so do you feel like you have to put yourself in like a survival mode just to like protect yourself in a certain way?
Yeah, I don't know. I would say like, I don't. Lying was always a big thing. I was good at lying for no other reason other than I can. So because of that, I've realized that like if I lie and I get caught in my own lie, then I feel bad and it looks bad on me. So I would rather not do that. And because of that, I've been more and more intentional about what I say. Yeah, so I would say like that. That's one of the things that will put me in like a survival mode, or like asking hard questions, and that was always the thing. It was always like, I was growing up with strict parents and stuff. Like, where were you? And having to be like, I was at school. Meanwhile, I was at the park the whole time. And like just because like they didn't really ask me because they knew anything, but just my mind immediately went to deflect. And that's something that I realized I still do, or a form of lying, which is omitting, and that's one I'm getting used to, because it's kind of like the scapegoat. Well, you didn't ask, so I didn't tell you, and I'm like, no, you didn't tell me because you knew it was wrong, and that's one of the ones that I'm picking up on now.
Okay, so silent treatment, lying.
Yeah.
Is some of the things you struggle with. Is there anything else you want to add on with struggling? Like even stuff from like back in the year that you were struggling with, or even just back to coming to America.
Oh, things that I'm struggling with recently. So I've been traveling more abroad for work, and recently the joke became that recently they called me an American. And that shocked me for the first time. But I was like, well, I do have an American passport and I do speak American English. And I don't consider myself American. And so, but then I go back to DR, and then I'm in DR. And everyone is like, oh, you're American. We can smell it off you. You can smell it the minute you get off the plane. And that one is a weird one, because I used to know the same thing. You just like pick up on it. You just know when someone is not from there. Recently, because the things are getting more and more accessible, so more and more people are having like American clothing and American brands, and like doing more Americanized activities. Like for some reason, pickleball became a big thing in the Dominican Republic, and so because of that, I believe that that was one of the things that have recently shocked me, because then I'm here, and here to say that I'm American is kind of like, it is weird. It is weird being like, well, I'm not really from here. So whenever somebody asks me here, so that's the thing. It's like if I'm somewhere else and they ask me where I'm from, then I would say, yeah, New York. But then when I'm here and they ask me where I'm from, of course the answer is the Dominican Republic. So it's a weird thing. to kind of get used to, of like, well, I have this dual thing going on where I'm not American enough to be American, but then Dominican Republic, I'm not Dominican enough to be Dominican. And then, everywhere else in the world, well, I'm just American because that's where I live and that's how I act and that's just what it is. So kind of accepting that has been an interesting one.
So, how have you been coping with that from even your teenage years up until now?
Coping.
Coping mechanisms?
Coping. There's ways to cope. I don't know. I don't think I have. I think I've just accepted it for what it is and just kind of moved on. I didn't really think about it that deep. I kind of just like...
You never sat down with yourself to think about it?
Yeah, I kind of just like moved on. I kind of was just like, well...
I'm already here.
Yeah, it was kind of like, well, whatever, it is what it is. Especially like, again, like out in Europe when they're like, oh, this American. And you're like, well, all right, fine. This American, but also this American is not really from America, but sure. So there is a lot of that. A lot of just like, I don't know, just talking myself through it, but not really getting too much into it. Yeah, and I also would say it doesn't affect me as much because I feel like being that no one is really from America unless the natives that were really here, I have accepted to recently what I've started doing due to our current political climate, what I've started doing is every time I say America, I do refer to the continent. So technically speaking, I am American because I am from Central America, but what I am not is I am not from the United States. And that's a big difference, even though I live here. So I've started to be intentional about when I say America, I mean the continent and not the country.
North America.
And not, yeah. But even like referring to North America, that includes Canada. So it's kind of like I've been more intentional about putting the United States in the box it belongs. It's a country, it's not the entire fucking continent, even though they make it seem like it. And they took over that word. And that's the part that really pisses me off. Is that you should be able to say I'm from America and not just be United States. And I feel like I've been more intentional about separating the two.
So what are some habits that you are trying to let go of?
Habits. Biting my nails, for sure. Biting my nails has been a struggle forever. Vaping and smoking. I stopped weed for a little bit, and I'm kind of like back.
Go back to it, or
I'm social about it now because I stopped it for so long. It now just became this treat to myself. Recently, I've been doing more and more of it, which is a little scary. But because I will get back into it, and I'm just a lightweight with everything. My body just is used to being clean. So even if I do it, I'm not like sitting down and like smoking a whole joint with people, or I would probably take 1 or 2 hits and then I know I'm good. I would say like setting limits has been my new way of maneuvering that, but definitely smoking. I don't know what it is. There's something relaxing about that action of like inhaling and exhaling a puff of smoke.
like letting go of like stress?
Yeah, I would say so, and I think it's just a thing to do. I tried. I used to think I was like a fidgeter, so I tried like having like the fidget stuff, the cubes, and that worked for a little bit. But really, I realized that there's nothing I love more than just like having something. Recently, I also tried to do the pouches, and then that really wasn't vibing with that as much because I realized that, it's not the nicotine the problem, it's the action that's the problem.
So do you have a network of people who can support you through these struggles and challenges?
Great question. I'm sure that if I seek it out, maybe. sure that if I seek it out, I'll probably find someone that's willing to help. But I would say that everyone that's around my age now is hooked on the same thing or some version of it.
Anything else you'd like to add on to that? Or do you feel like you would seek therapy for that?
For that, that's a hard one. No, I don't think so. I think that even though I do believe in therapy, and I do believe that you should seek help whenever you see fit that you need it, or whenever you think that you can benefit from it. I personally don't think I could benefit from that, because that would just be somebody trying to hold me accountable, for my own actions. And I think that you should be strong enough to do it. I also think that you should have your own free will. Yeah, kind of like you should also have like your own free will. Like if you want to stop, but you're not ready to stop, but you should be able to know when you really need to. And that's always been my thing. Again, with weed as well, just being like, maybe I don't want this anymore. I also realized that I have an addictive personality, so nothing lasts forever. Everything is just kind of like in waves. I'm either like super 100% doing something, or I'm not, and I go through the cycles of in and out.
How do you feel when someone says man up?
Yeah. Does it? I mean, it depends on the context. Again, it depends if like, are they really just saying shut up and suck it all up, and like sometimes that's fair. Sometimes I feel like you don't really have to. Like maybe it's not the moment to talk about emotions, or maybe it's not the moment. Listen, I'm a blue collar worker, so I do still have some of this mentality of like, yeah, the job sucks. We all know it sucks, but we're all still out here doing it. So complaining about it is not going to change it, or complaining about what the situation is. And if we want to talk about it in a sensible sense, that's one thing. But just sitting here being like, oh man, I gotta do this, and I don't feel like doing it. It's kind of like, I feel like that's the context it's been used in the most. But obviously, it can definitely take a wrong connotation. It can definitely just mean shut up, and in which case that's also not right. But I'm not 100% sure that everybody means it in a negative way. Because again, the question would circle back to, well, what does it mean to be a man? And if we are to man up, then does that mean shut up, or does it really mean, get the job done without kind of making it worse than it is? Because I think that we need more. We just need more precision when it comes to that kind of thing, because it really doesn't mean anything. Like man up, woman up, like it really doesn't mean anything when you really think about it in the context, or like just as the word. I forgot what the word is. I think it's epistemology, the study of language and the study of words. So when you look at it that way, there's no meaning behind it, but it could mean something in the moment. And I think the thing to find out is, what do you mean at that moment? And chances are half the people are not going to know how to define it. And then that will be our answer. Me personally, how do I feel when someone says man up? Honestly, normally I just laugh.
You know what?
Yeah, honestly, I just laugh. I don't have a lot of like say into what people say, so I kind of try not to be bothered by it, or even really pay much mind to it. So I'm not ever like sitting here. I try not to get offended. At least I would say it's my thing.
How do you feel today? Do you feel safe in this world today, and why? And does social media play a role? Like, how does social media play, especially since, post-pandemic, we're in 2026.
Yeah, definitely. Social media has changed. I got off of social media in the pandemic. Recently got back because of the work, and recently, like, now feel like an old man. I don't know how to use my phone half the time. Um, yeah, social media has like this big push. I mean, there's always been there, kind of, but pornography. There's a lot of that going on, and I feel like that's not helping anybody socialize, or like that's really burning a different idea. And that's not to say that, like, you should, like, we should all just sit there and delete our apps. But I feel like there can definitely be more controlled, and obviously people are not doing it because sex sells. And everybody's got to make a buck on something. I would argue that, well, safe is a big word. I'd like to think I feel safe, but I obviously don't know. One of the things I think about constantly is, if you get stopped by the cops and you're driving, my rule, I used to, like, hang out with a lot of car people and, the crazy things in the street. So the rule is always, like, keys off the ignition on the dash, driver's license on the dash, everything just on the dash, so they can possibly ask for something. I don't have to reach for anything. And I don't remember where I saw this, but people are surprised by that. And one of the things, I think it was a comedian, one of the things he was saying was like, well, remember, niggas have been killed for less. So if you feel like you're doing too much, on the contrary, you're not doing enough. So that's something that, like, is always around. Obviously, the whole concept of police brutality is a big one. We can dive into that for hours. And now in the current state, as a Spanish-speaking immigrant, it is scary. Thankfully, I, have my situation in order, so I don't see myself. But shit happens. Again, shit happens to people that have done less. So who's to say that nothing's gonna happen to me? And I know people in my media circle that have been like, my most recent story, I don't know, we might have to edit this out, but I'll ask him if it's okay. But one of someone that I normally call for work, he's a little younger, and he got picked up by ICE, and I'm like, calling him, texting him, and like nothing will get through, and I was so mad, and I'm like, why are you ignoring me? This is stupid. And then I just got an email, and the email just said, can I read it to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I find it. But it was actually really God, I can't find it. That sucks.
Do you remember some of it?
Well, yeah, well, that was the funny thing, is that, after being so angry that he never answered, the email just read, hello, I just want you to know, I got picked up by ICE. I'm currently in an ICE detention center. I'm still in New York, but they have my phone and they have my possession. So no, I won't be able to come into work this weekend. And that's funny in hindsight. He's out and out, and he's still battling that. But and it's pretty messed up as it is.
You said he's out.
Yeah, he's out. He's okay. It was obviously a pretty fucked up situation, but like that was something you didn't have to think about. Like, sure, you would have to think about it if you were dealing with someone you're dealing with things that were a little more serious. So but this kid is like 21, 22, doing theater, and like, he's super nice, doesn't really smoke, he's not like out and about doing things like, if this was a person calling a lot of attention to themselves, then yeah, I would be a little bit more, like mindful, but never in a million years would I have expected. And that's a weird one to think about, because of course you don't think about it. You're like, it doesn't really affect me directly. And then something like that happens. You're like, wow, okay, that is closer than I ever thought. And now, for example, so like now I live in Jersey City. So technically speaking, having to cross state lines, even that means something somehow, some way. And that is just bizarre, and that's one that I never wanted to have to think about that, but now to like constantly have your head on a swivel, or constantly are like, yeah, and like being like, am I right? Am I okay? Like, sure, I understand, but again, people have been taken for less. So again, if you feel like you're doing too much, on the contrary, you're not doing enough. So yeah, that's a weird one, and I'm definitely not sleeping well with that one. Yeah, I mean, then I guess in recent events, talks of war have definitely been scaring me, and I mean, scaring the hell out of everybody. And like, I think that one of the most beautiful things we've seen is just like finally even military personnel speaking up about it, and agreeing that this is wrong and shouldn't happen. But and again, we go back to like being men, and men used to go to war, and now these are the men that don't want to go to war. It's kind of like, well, at least we can all agree on something, on both ends of the spectrum. So I'm very, I don't want to say scared, but definitely concerned. If you put it out there, then it will happen. But I'm definitely concerned about what the future holds, and the fact that we don't. Yeah, and the fact that we don't know, I think, is even more concerning. And I think that the world will keep spinning, no matter what, right? So it's really a matter of how you take that in. But yeah, again, back to like the, I don't remember if this is before or after the kid question, but yeah, that's one of the things, like, that still take 9 months. We could be in World War III in 9 months, and what am I gonna do then?
What is some personal goals that you would like to focus on to improve your mental health?
Personal goals. Jesus. Wow. Can you do that? Can you put goals towards your mental health?
Short term, long term.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't really think about it. I guess, like, when you start thinking about it as a goal, I guess it does make a difference, right? It doesn't just like become a thing. It doesn't become like a long-term commitment. I would say I would like to stop procrastinating. That's a big one. I would like to be better. I just, but I don't know. I live in this weird world where, like, if I'm doing too much, then I feel bad. And if I'm not doing enough, then I feel bad. So, kind of finding that balance, or at least lately I've been happier to just understand that there are times when you can take it easy. There are times when you can just, like, relax, play video games all night, take a walk in the park, like whatever needs to happen. See friends, hang out, like whatever needs to happen for you to wind down, it's okay, and you don't have to feel guilty about it, considering what you've been doing. So that, doing that weight out of like, do I need this in order to keep going, or do I just burn myself out and go through it? Um,
Especially in today's climate, you gotta schedule some goodness.
yeah, or yeah, something, or like find happiness within yourself. I had recently like picked up video games again and just like forgotten how how good it was to just like sit there and disconnect for a while. No, no, actually, I've been playing a lot of like old games, like just games that I just have laying around that I never got around to play. Yeah, so I've like started bringing back some of those. As we spoke off camera, but my brother lives in Puerto Rico and he left his Nintendo Switch, so I just like been playing games on the Switch now. So I've been like playing on the train or like playing on my free time, and like now I've been filling my time with that, and just like getting some good in my day, I guess. But yeah, I guess in terms of like long term, I don't know, man. I would love to feel more comfortable, I guess, and like more comfortable in the sense that I would love to see more. I would love to see more of just peace of mind, I guess. Like I would love to be able to just relax and not worry so much about a million things. I have one of those minds that's always racing and always like asking. Yeah, like well, planning. I'm horrible at. Me and my friend have a joke about it because he's in corporate, so he's used to like the calendar and the schedule and like you know uh, having like his whole day planned out from 7 a.m. to midnight, and it's insane to me. I'm just kind of like vibing with the air. And I never had I never had that kind of commitment, especially like being in the industry where something can change so fast. So that no matter how much planning you do, there will be something that will ultimately change the course of the plans. So I've been laid back a little too much about that. So definitely would love to start planning better and scheduling things better.
Okay, so besides video games, what other self-care stuff are you doing? Are you trying to sleep better, drinking more water, exercise, reading?
We would love to pick up reading again. There's a lot of good books that I haven't finished, and there's a lot of good stuff that I would love to study. Learning, my friend says I'm a student of the world, so I would love to.
You're a student for life, definitely.
Yeah, I would love to like read a little more and kind of get my mind off of screens more often. But I'm not really like a screen person. I'm not the type of guy that's like always glued to a freaking screen watching the latest episode of Love Is Blind or whatever. So I'm not really addicted to any show and or thing where I'm like super into it. So thankfully I got that. I do enjoy the outside a lot. I do enjoy my job. So even if it's, I would love to like, I would say like to improve my mental health. I would love to just have more of a community. That's something that I feel like I lack right now. I feel like I need to build that a little bit better. Just like a random group of people, whether it's playing video games or going out to a bar or something. I feel like I don't have enough, but there are people that really have nobody.
Are you also saying that because you work in the entertainment industry, so you like to like schedule like like a one-on-one or just like a group hangout every once in a while?
Yeah, a group hangout would be nice. I would say I definitely lack that, and that's one of the things that I feel like I miss more often because like I stayed local for school. I didn't go away to school, so I didn't have as much free time. Because when I stay local in school, I focus more on my career, which was a gamble, but it paid out, and I think that if I had built, and that's one of the things that like I see here a lot, for example, like people will come in and they're all friends from college and whatever, and they will like, you see them in their little circle, in their little clique, and it's pretty amazing to have that, and I feel like I lack that. Even though I know enough people, and I know enough people to hang out, I have never hung out with a group of 5, for example. I've never had like just a large group of people that wanted to do something, and maybe that's good for some reasons, but that's something that I feel like I lack, and I would like to see that.
What is something you're looking forward to about the future, personal and professional?
Personal and professional. Ooh. Personally, about the future, I don't know. I would like to really have a sit down with myself and kind of consider a few things, consider my life choices, but just consider like where I'm living, what I'm doing, what am I gonna do, and what are some things that I can strive to, because right now I feel like I'm just kind of floating, and I would like to like kick up the engine and start actually picking a direction. I used to have a direction, and that kind of faded away, but I would love to kind of like get back to it, and because many people get stuck in that. Many people get stuck in like their one job or their one thing, and they don't see after that. And I would say I'm definitely slowing down to that point. So I would love to see myself just like improve in whatever direction that may be, whether it's towards getting a house or getting a car, or finding another hobby or another thing that I like, or just like explore a little more. I would say like my recent thing has also been just like finding places to go with people, and having like a spot, or having like a place that I like to go. Like I like to go to this pub up the block, and they know me there, and like that. I don't know. There's something heartwarming about that when you like walk in somewhere and people are like, "Hey, what's up?" Now, granted, that's probably not a good thing that I'm at a bar every other day, but I feel like just like back to like building a community. Like I like speaking Spanish to the man at the deli. I like making friends on the train and stuff like that, and I would say that I went off on the wrong tangent here, but I would say that I would love to see myself like seek more of that, or see where that leads me, or how that opens up new doors. I recently moved too, so I'm recently like in this limbo. Professionally, the main thing I got going on is I'm actually designing the next show that's going on in here, the next main stage production here, and so I'm excited for that and what doors that might open. I'm also excited to see where else I work and what else I do, because in this industry it's all about, especially as a freelancer, it's all about how many doors you can open, and it's all a revolving door. So I'm excited to like see professionally like where I go to, and how I navigate.
So what is an advice you would give to your younger self if you were looking at little Dariel right now?
If I was looking at little Dario,
What would you tell them?
man, there are a couple of things. I think like number one, again, especially with I went to 2 schools, because I did community college and got all my gen eds, and then I went to get my BFA, and the joke was I attended the school, but I didn't go to school, because by the time I graduated, I knew no one in my program. Like, sure, I had classes with people, but I didn't know them, and that was a weird one to sit through. So I would say like, go join swimming classes, go join the swimming team, like, work will be here. And like obviously the younger the younger we get, I would say, like, yeah, try to, it's kind of ironic too now talking about the sense of community, but also like, try not to take these people too seriously because, they're all young just like you and figuring it out, and they don't know what the rest of the world may hold. So, like having friends now that I used to know from school that, we like did everything together. And now they live in South Florida. We barely talk. And it's kind of like, well, happy I got those memories, but, maybe that time could have been spent, even though like maybe that time was good, but maybe not take it so seriously or as the end all be all, and just enjoy the time that you have.
So at this moment, what are you most grateful for? It could be personal and professional.
Grateful. I am very grateful to, have the life that I currently have. I have a great home situation. I have a great commute to work. I have a great time just like, I have a great time just getting to know the people around me, and I don't think that that's gonna go away, but I do feel like other people my age lack that. So I am happy to once again be ahead of the curve, and that's something that I've always been grateful for, my professional career and just my general life is just, being ahead of the curve and being ahead of everybody and understanding that there is a world, that there is a world ahead of me, and that I'm still catching up to that world as well. So once again, back to like that student of the world thing, like just trying to get more and more information, whether it's
Trying to soak up all the information.
yeah, as much as I can, just like every day, whatever I can learn from every day, I'll take it. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've had.
I love that. So, what are some of the biggest obstacles that you've noticed that the mental community have faced? The repetitive jokes, repetitive patterns, and why do you also think like they may avoid therapy?
I would say, I mean, yeah, there is a lot of stigmatism around therapy. I don't understand why. I mean, I do understand why, and I do understand that the jokes and everything is funny, but I don't understand why people don't take that and just kind of, brush it under the rug, and it may not be as easy as some people think so. But I also think that, again, you owe yourself a commitment to take care of yourself. And if you feel like you need therapy, if you feel like you need to talk to a professional, then you should seek out and do that, regardless of what anybody says. It's the same way that, the same way that people talk about your clothing or the car you drive or the job you're doing. You can either take that and take it to heart and waddle about it, or you can just like let them talk and do your own thing. Because again, I feel like you owe yourself more than anybody some sort of commitment to do better for yourself. The quote that I always think about is you got to look out for number one, and number one is always you. So I think that's something to think about. I would say, I mean, shit, right now we are in some interesting times, and I don't know how we're gonna get through it. I think that more and more men especially are a bit either concerned about the situation or like just so far removed that they don't really think everything through. And I don't know which one is worse, but I think that we are definitely facing some sort of internal battle within ourselves and within the community. So I feel like if we I'm not saying we all gotta hold hands and sing kumbaya, but I think that if we just kind of like air it out, it might turn into something. Yeah, I don't know, man. The men community is difficult. It's difficult to talk about it because I don't think that there is one answer to it. I think that more and more people just need to figure out what it is that they need and how they can improve on that, and should they choose to, again, it's got to come from within you first. And then I feel like as more and more people do it, the whole community might do it as a whole. So I feel like it starts personal and then interpersonal and then on a community basis.
That actually goes into my next question. What can we do more as a community for men's mental health? And how can we encourage men to seek help?
I think that, man, I don't know. I think that, yeah, men just gotta like take it upon themselves, and it is what it is. But we talk about being super independent and super strong and strong-minded, and I do what I want, and what I say goes and shit like that. So I feel like people just need to. I would say men need to hold other men accountable. First off, like, hey dude, we said this thing was not gonna fly, but you're still doing it, so what's up? And also just men need to be a little bit more aware of themselves in this situation. It's just kind of like thinking about why it is that they do what they're doing, and realizing the pattern and realizing how to correct it. I don't think that we are doing enough for the community as a whole by making these jokes, or by and listen, I'm a big believer that if it's funny, it's funny. But I think that we can definitely do more about making it more known that these are real issues and these are things that people are struggling with. There are people struggling with some serious stuff, and that refuse to talk about it because why would you? Who would listen? And I feel like we just need to really have whether it be meetings, but the main thing I'm thinking about is just like that, this kind of mentality that like someone will listen. And it may not be the first person you talk to, but someone will listen, and someone will try to help you through that. I think that there's a level of I'm not sure what the word I'm thinking of, but like not paying attention, or like not being concerned about it. There's a level of like people talking to other people, even though they're friends, and not paying attention to what they're saying, and really, not even give advice, but sometimes just even listen. And I feel like there's a level of that we're definitely lacking, and I would love to see more men just kind of like understanding that there's a way to kind of help each other out here, because it is a real thing. You may not be struggling with the same thing, but it may still be something that once you, even though you're talking it out loud, might help you.
So what advice would you give to somebody who feels like they can't talk to anybody?
What was the question?
Advice you would give to a man who feels like they can't talk to anybody about it because they'll get judged.
Yeah, again, well, that's the question, right? Is who are you hanging around that's going to judge you so hard? And if so, then then it may be time to really reconsider who you people are, because people that truly care will always care, no matter what it is that you have to say. And I think that you can definitely find somebody, and you can definitely seek out. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's gonna take a while, and depending on like where you are in the world and where you are within the battle within yourself, I think that may be more hard than it looks to talk about it. But I think that there's definitely a world, there's definitely a way, and there's definitely now in this new day and age, we're coming more and more to terms, with the fact that men would also like to talk about their issues and what they're feeling and how they can go about it. I don't, first of all, I don't, like, you can take therapy on your phone, for crying out loud. Will you have to pay for it? Yes. But, so maybe that's the thing. Maybe we make more services available on the state level, at least, and because we know damn well that federally is not going to happen yet. But at least I would love to see just like a little bit more push into that. And again, I understand it's not for everybody. But if you feel like you need something, then seek out a professional. Like if you know you can't fix your toilet, call a plumber. You can't fix whatever you're struggling with, then yeah, talk to a therapist.
Okay, and something you want everyone watching to know about men's mental health. Like what are the top 3 words you would describe men's mental health?
Top 3 words is hard. Let's say it's becoming more transparent. More and more people are talking about it. Things like this are happening. I appreciate you and I appreciate this. I think, I would say like it's coming to light more and more. And I think that we need to receive it with open arms and, because what ultimately ends up happening, especially with social media and stuff, is like this. We're like, oh, there's this movement of sad men all of a sudden. And it's like, no, the sad men were always here. It just so happens that it's more apparent. But, obviously social media will capitalize on anything it can. So I feel like just on a personal level, on like your immediate circle, I feel like it's becoming more transparent, and we should receive that with open arms. We should just receive it as another way that we are growing as society.
And to wrap it up, is there anything else you would like to add?
Sure. My one last thought on this is, don't use AI as your therapist. Don't use AI as like your one all and be all. I feel like also social media has pushed this like lonely man epidemic, and I don't like it. I think that there are other things you can do. There is this whole push for like AI people, chatbots that you talk to. There's this whole push for like AI therapists. There's more and more people again glued to a screen. Go touch some grass. Do something. Find a hobby. Find something you like to do. Look at the sun once in a while.
Look at the sun?
Yeah, just look at the sun once in a while, Feel the fresh air. Just kind of like, just get out of your usual self. I have a thing that is always like, depending on how you are, that's how your life is. So if you're laying down all day, your life is just kind of stagnant. If you're standing up, then chances are you're going on the up and up. If you're sitting down, you're kind of also just stagnant, depending on what you're doing when you're sitting down. But just like your body also has something to do with your mind.
Definitely. Thank you for your time, Dario.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy we did this.